Australia's competition regulator laid criminal cartel charges against three big banks on Tuesday. ANZ Bank, a local unit of Citigroup, and Deutsche Bank were all named by the regulator. It's one of Australia's biggest cases of alleged white-collar crime. The charges relate to the sale of nearly $2 billion worth of ANZ shares in 2015. In addition to the banks themselves, criminal charges have also been laid against 6 executives. They include ANZ's treasurer and several members of Citigroup's current and former executives. Regulators had flagged the charges on Friday, when all 3 banks denied wrongdoing and said they'd fight any charges vigorously. Citigroup said in a statement last week authorities were effectively criminalising practices long seen as the norm in finance without warning. Australian officials say the charges are the result of an investigation that's been running for more than 2 years. On top of huge fines, criminal cartel charges can carry up to 10 years in prison. And this case comes at a time when Australian finance is already facing a year-long inquiry into misconduct. That inquiry's already generated a slew of embarrassing headlines. On Monday, the country's biggest lender, the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, paid a record $530 million fine. That was for more than 50,000 breaches of laws against money laundering and terror financing.
And now, with round-the-clock updates from Reuters journalists, here are today's top stories.
Bikinis are now a thing of the past for Miss America.
The Trump versus the Eagles controversy heats up.
A plastic addiction blighting the world's oceans.
This is Reuters Now.
It's the end of an era in beauty contests. There will be no more women in bikinis in the Miss America competition, making it more inclusive to all body shapes and sizes. That's according to chairwoman Gretchen Carlson, who told Good Morning America, quote, "We are no longer a pageant, we are a competition. We will no longer judge our candidates on their outward physical appearance. That's huge." The Miss America organization breaking this news on Twitter through this video, which went viral along with hashtag #ByeByeBikini. Carlson said in a statement that judges would instead focus on competitors' scholarship, talent, and social impact, and the swimsuit portion would be replaced by a panel interview of contestants. Women will also no longer be judged during the evening gown portion of the event. The revamp following a recent management overhaul, with women now leading Miss America for the first time in its 97-year history, and comes as the Me Too movement has spurred change. The former leaders of Miss America resigned in December following media reports that executives had sent lewd emails about past winners.
Stand beside her and guide her.
President Trump went ahead with a planned event at the White House Tuesday without the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, after claiming the team disagreed with standing for the national anthem.
Is the president aware that not a single player on the Eagles through the entire season knelt for the national anthem?
The president's position on not just the anthem has been clear, but let's not forget this isn't. There were 80 members of the Eagles organization that RSVP'd and committed to attend this event. If this wasn't a political stunt by the Eagles franchise, then they wouldn't have planned to attend the event and then backed out at the last minute.
Reuters sports correspondent Rory Carroll.
The disinviting of the Eagles appears to not be about standing for the anthem, but instead about a number of Eagles players saying they did not want to go. A number of the players, including former Eagles wide receiver Torrey Smith, have stated they would not attend a White House celebration due to differences with policies held by this White House, but those policies did not include the national anthem controversy.
Trump on Twitter acknowledged the real reason for rescinding the invitation, but continued to suggest that players disrespected the anthem, saying, "Unfortunately, only a small number of players decided to come and we canceled the event. Staying in the locker room for the playing of our national anthem is as disrespectful to our country as kneeling. Sorry." But no Eagles players ever stayed in the locker room during the anthem last season. 2 weeks ago, the NFL announced a new policy that will fine a team if a player is on the field and refuses to stand for the anthem, though players are allowed to remain in the locker room if they choose. Meanwhile, star basketball players Steph Curry and LeBron James jumping into the fray, announcing on Tuesday that whichever team wins the NBA championship, neither the Golden State Warriors nor the Cleveland Cavaliers will go to the White House to celebrate.
Much attention is being given to whether President Trump will testify under oath in the special counsel's investigation, but now it's becoming more likely he will be deposed in the defamation suit brought against him by a former Apprentice contestant. A New York State judge ruled on Tuesday Summer Zervos may pursue her lawsuit against the president, despite Trump's effort to have an appeals court put it on hold. Reuters' Brendan Pearson is at the courthouse in Brooklyn.
The judge, what she did on Tuesday was set a schedule for discovery to go forward. That means that the parties are going to have to produce documents to each other. That's going to have to happen by September. And by January, any depositions, either of Summer Zervos or of Trump himself, are going to have to be completed according to this schedule.
Zervos accused Trump of subjecting her to unwanted kissing and groping after she sought career advice in 2007.
You do not have the right to treat women as sexual objects just because you are a star.
She then claimed he defamed her by portraying her as a liar. Zervos was just one of more than a dozen women who came forward during the campaign to accuse Trump of sexual harassment and abuse. But the president said he was the real victim.
I am a victim of one of the great political smear campaigns in the history of our country.
At Tuesday's hearing, Trump's attorney Mark Kasowitz said that he may seek to exclude from the case any evidence from other Trump accusers. Trump has argued that as a sitting president, he is immune from the lawsuit and is seeking an order from New York's highest court freezing the case.
The fashion designer Kate Spade was found dead in an apparent suicide in her New York City apartment on Tuesday. The New York Daily News cited police sources that she had hanged herself and was found by her housekeeper at her home on Park Avenue on Manhattan's Upper East Side.
There was a suicide note left at the scene. I'm not going to get into the contents of that note, but that appears to be the sum total of what it is at this point. But we still have detectives on the scene. It's still a fairly fresh incident.
Born Catherine Brosnahan in Kansas City, she married Andy Spade, brother of actor David Spade. Kate and Andy formed a business under her name in 1993 and began by selling women's handbags. She spoke about her burgeoning success with CBS News in 1999.
There was a lack of interesting accessories that had a personality but still were very elegant and functional. And I loved the idea of using really beautiful fabrics, and I didn't see a lot of that. So
the brand grew into an empire. Her brightly colored, clean-lined style offered a fresh take on fashion at a time when luxury handbags were unaffordable to most and the industry was dominated by venerable European brands. Among her innovations, placing her label visibly on her bags.
I remember thinking, there's something missing. I want something for my eye to go to. And so the label that was meant to go on the inside, I took it out of the box and I sewed it on the outside, and that was it.
The couple sold their remaining shares in the firm in 2006 to focus on raising their daughter, Frances Beatrix Spade. In 2016, they launched a new footwear and accessories brand called Frances Valentine, naming it after their daughter, who is now 13. Spade was 55 years old.
Aerial views show the extent of the devastation. Entire villages, farms, and coffee plantations covered in mud and ash. Sunday's eruptions of the Fuego volcano in south-central Guatemala was its most destructive in 4 decades. More than 3,000 people were forced from their homes, although scores didn't make it out in time. Many who did now struggle with the shock of losing most or all of their families. They're combing through morgues looking for their relatives. Rescuers have resumed digging through the hot debris in search of victims, a task made more difficult by a fresh eruption on Monday. Heavy rains are also hindering the search. Guatemala's President Jimmy Morales visited to provide thanks and encouragement. Amid the search for bodies, many families are already holding funerals for their loved ones. Experts say the worst is probably over, and Morales has declared 3 days of national mourning. But it will likely take far longer for the survivors and the country to recover.
Southeast Asia has a major plastic addiction, and Thailand's been singled out as one of the region's worst plastic use offenders. Just this week, the death of a whale found with 80 pieces of plastic trash in its stomach served as a wake-up call for the country's battle against plastic pollution. The UN says over 8 million tonnes of plastic are dumped into the world's oceans each year. More than half of that estimated to come from just 5 Asian countries. On Tuesday, in an attempt to tackle the problem, the UN called for the biggest ever worldwide clean-up of plastic. And as Reuters' Papika Tanakasempepat in Bangkok explains, the world is looking to Southeast Asia to clean up its act.
4 Southeast Asian countries are among the world's worst offenders when it comes to plastic pollution in the ocean. In their major cities from Bangkok to Hanoi, Jakarta, and Manila, plastic bags and bottles are everywhere, and they're the face of pollution in the region. While these economies have generated exploding demands for consumer products, they lack effective waste management systems, and the awareness among their people is low. But now, these countries are feeling the impact on their environment and communities.
You're up to date. For more, download the Reuters TV app on your mobile or streaming device.